Buff Duke Gym up in Oregon. We got a special guest, DIY Duke, which of course is our dad. And we just want to talk about some things, specifically going to be working out when you become of age where the dinosaurs roamed and cavemen walked the earth. No, that's
a little too old.
He's getting to about the 60s now.
Yeah,
getting close, and we just want to kind of go over what you can do to still work out, stay fit, stay healthy, and you don't have to kill yourself in the gym and be injury-free.
Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely. I think he wants that. I want that. No one wants to have to take care of him, wipe his ass later down the road. So before any exercises, we're actually going to focus on some mobility stuff, some dynamic warm-ups, and also some stretching too. Stretching is more after the workout when the muscles are already a little bit warm, the ligaments, the tendons, things of that nature. But the mobility and the dynamic warm-ups are very important because as I found out at a young age, when Duke got us into working out, our dad got us into working out, he has a major crampage. Crampage in the hamstrings. So there'd be nights where he get a cramp in his hamstring, you barely move. Right?
Yeah.
And that's not only due to maybe, let's say, poor nutrition or hydration, but it's also due to mobility and also flexibility and even some myofascial release. So we're going to go over a few of those in a sec. Myofascial, don't worry about it. It's Buff Dude talk. No, it's myofascial release is the fascia, the muscles that get tight. It's basically like giving yourself a deep tissue massage. You get a foam roller and you can roll your muscles out, make sure they're getting the proper blood flow and nutrients in there. So before we get too ahead of ourselves, we're just going to show you a couple mobility and dynamic warm-ups first, and then we're going to get into some exercise and go over some form and function. You ready? Yeah. So we got Duke here doing some high knees. What he's doing, he's taking small steps and he's grabbing it with both hands and he's pulling it to his chest area. So this is loosening up the glutes, it's loosening up a little bit in the quads, hamstrings, knee joint, and it's getting some blood flowing and making sure he's ready for putting some pressure and some weight on his knees and also his hips too. All right, one more pass. Oh yeah, see that?
What the shit?
Loosening up.
Oh, that was actually my pants.
Oh. As you're doing this, you can actually find out some imbalances and asymmetrical issues or problems in the body while you're performing these dynamic warm-ups. Like let's say in this case, his right side is a little bit more flexible. So immediately you're gonna pay a little bit more attention to the left side. And that's kind of normal, like when you sit down and you cross your legs, usually you'll probably cross your right one over your left kind of thing. So it's just kind of a habit, and over the years, that's what makes one side a little bit more flexible or dominant than the other. But so we're finishing up with the dynamic warm-ups here. It's very similar to the high knees, still working on the glutes, working on a little bit in the quads and hamstrings and knees, just kind of loosening things up a bit before going on to the mobility drills. But we got one more dynamic warm-up here, and we'll get to it right now. So Duke's just finishing these up. So it's just one leg stretched out. It's going to be straightening in here, so you're going to feel a lot of the pressure in the hamstring, also in the lower back too, trying to loosen things up again, much like the others. So that really kind of does it with the dynamic warm-up. That's just three real simple ones because we're going to actually start off some lower body exercises. And usually the hips and the lower back, that whole region, is going to be probably the most immobile and the most tight. Hamstrings, hips, kind of quads, knee joint, that kind of area. So that's what we really want to focus on, especially at this video. But the next ones are going to be some mobility drills, what we're going to go on next. And we're going to start with some lower body, and then we're going to move on to some upper body too before any exercises are done. Because number one thing, injury prevention. You want to prevent injuries before they even happen, right?
Right on.
Yeah, let's get to it. All right, so while Duke is performing the goblet squats here, now this can actually be just a straight up exercise, or it can actually be performed as a mobility drill. Right now we're using this mobility drill because once he gets down in this position, this is the squat position, and obviously he's running a bit tight in the hamstrings and hips like most people are. But what this does is it's really trying to get that proper positioning and natural. It's actually, this is more of a natural stance for a lot of people, or it should be, but we just don't really do it anymore. We're just sitting in chairs and standing and whatnot. So we never really get down in this position. So this is really going to force the positioning of the hips and lower back, and really kind of sit into it as Duke's doing, and kind of push outward from his arms to his knees here. And the little bit of weight here is activating and pushing downward. It's letting gravity control there, but it's also forcing you to kind of arch up slightly so that way that weight doesn't drop down. But yeah, he's starting to shake a bit. We'll give him a break, and we're going to move on to the next mobility drill. Yeah, so now he's down in the lunge position. You're going to bring that foot upwards, more so. No, bring it all the way up.
foot. Oh,
There we go. There we go. Yeah. Because that's going to create a bit more stretch in the hamstring, but also, and then bring that chest up. There we go. And then just slightly move forward, because now that's really going to be hitting the hip flexors, the quad. So now you're going to be able to pinpoint what's kind of running tighter. Obviously, he's feeling a little bit more on the quads. So the quads are running a bit tighter, so that's it. You just kind of work into the positionings that feel the tightest. It's not an exact science, because everyone's going to be a bit different, but this is a good way. And don't pulsate too much. Don't kind of bring it in. Just slowly kind of slow down. Keep the chest up. And that's also going to be working on the hip flexors too. And then you can even add one where you're putting that left hand in the inside of the leg. And then you're going to be twisting this way. And looking towards the ceiling there. There we go. So that's going to be hitting now the lower back as well. And a little bit of work needs to be done here. It's okay.
Please help me.
God can't help you now. Sorry. And then once you kind of hold that position for a bit, you go ahead and go back, and then we're going to switch legs. So we'll get the next leg there. But a lot of times people have some knee issues, and that's going to tend to run in the tightness in the rectus femoris here, which is going to be part of the quad muscles, and it's going to be hitting that patella tendon, tightening that up, and then the patella tendon, the patella is actually tracking wrong. It's tracking a little bit, not so when we do that yet. So go ahead and arch up. There we go. Bring that foot forward. There we go. Yeah, and then just nice and slow, kind of move forward just a bit. There we go, but keep the chest up. There we go. Yeah, so... No, there we go, king of the world. But yeah, so the rectus femoris muscles here, it's going to pull in the patella tendon. So this right here is really kind of getting that quad stretch and help in the long run for letting that patella track correctly. And then you're going to feel a hell of a lot more comfortable when you do any kind of squats or even just day-to-day activities like walking, running, things of that nature. So, and now go ahead and put your hand on the inside. And you're going to reach up, and then look where you're reaching. You get that lower back too. And you can switch sides too. You don't have to do this. You actually put the other side too and arch up the other way, just like that. And so yeah, there's just a lot of different techniques and positionings you can do depending on where you're running tight. And good, nice. So that take care of 2 lower body mobility drills we can do. And we're going to go into the third. So we got this positioning here. That's kind of a stretch / mobility. Mobility is going to work because now you're kind of working different positions again, the hip capsule. So it's going to be the glute, the hips, a little bit in the opposite kind of hip flexor there once the leg is outstretched in the back. But you just kind of sit in this position, kind of work slightly different angles again to work in positions that you're most tight or most immobile. And you can hold in certain positions, kind of move around a bit. You try not to do it too quickly or too jarringly. But yeah, just kind of sit in that position for a while. And then once you're done, you can switch sides.
At first I didn't think I was going to be able to do that.
It looks harder than it actually is. Once you get into it, it can be pretty comfortable. So, and now on the left side, immediately you can tell it's a bit more tight, a bit more mobile, just the seeing and positioning here, which again is somewhat normal. But yeah, just kind of work, almost kind of twist your body, your upper body into, back and forth, and kind of like even push into positioning the hip capsule that way to kind of release some of that and again work on that mobility. So this is another really great one to kind of really just loosen the hips up, especially if you're doing any kind of heavy squatting. Lunging, leg press, anything really to do with legs or hips. This is an excellent one to loosen them up. Right, Duke?
Yes.
You can't talk. Too much pain.
Yeah, that's good.
Nice.
Ready to rock and roll. Of course, as you age, you want to try to stay healthy and limber and that kind of thing. So obviously exercise and eating right is really good, but still you can't stop the aging process, but you can sure try to stay healthy as you go through that process, because yeah, it happens.
Now most of the mobility dynamic warm-up stuff is out of the way. We're going to go into the first exercise here. As you can tell, Duke's already performed it, and it's going to be some lateral squats. And we're going to use the box here just to have kind of a reference point to sit on, and this is still kind of loosen up, get a little bit more mobile. I don't think mobility or flexibility was Duke's strong point, but that's my word.
Now, what would make you say that?
Yeah, it's okay, but hey, this is the whole point, is that it doesn't matter where you are, fitness level, mobility, if you're strong, if you're weak, if you're fat, if you're thin, if you're whatever it may be, there's always a way where to start. You get some flexing going on, that's perfect. It doesn't matter where you're starting, as long as you have the dedication, as long as you have the drive, as long as you have the information, education, you can pretty much accomplish anything. So motivation, you can make a song out of this for sure. So
and by the way, this thing is really hard to do. Imagine doing it with weight. It's like, because you're going at an angle, you're supposed to keep this leg straight, right?
that's right.
And then to get back up, it takes quite a bit of effort. Cause you gotta push with this. This one doesn't do much. Just kind of guides, right?
That is more kind of, this is just kind of stabilize yourself. The good thing about this exercise, it is actually kind of doubles as a mobility drill as well, because it's not only working on your ankle mobility, because your toes need to be straight at all times. Once they start coming outwards, go ahead and like, let's say you're pushing them out. Once you're, it makes it easier.
Because you're pushing with your quad and stuff.
You're pushing with your quad, but also now it's not working on any kind of ankle mobility, and the ankle really has to be engaged throughout this motion by keeping that straight there. So it's kind of a win-win exercise, and you kind of got to keep your chest up. Don't have that stance like you're defeated. Although this exercise does kick your ass. So
kill me, please.
Yeah. So now that we got one side down, is a unilateral exercise. So that means we're concentrating on one side, and then we'll go on to the next, which is great, especially when you're handling any kind of asymmetrical problems, much like Duke is.
Jeez, ditch Dad.
I love you, Dad. You know that. It's too easy for comic relief. So we're gonna just move this over here, and now he's gonna perform the next side. And this is his more dominant side. It's more mobile, a little bit more flexible. So we're gonna be doing it second. It's always kind of good to start with your least dominant side, your weak side first, and then move on to your dominant side. But
Oh yeah, it's a piece of cake.
it makes it look too easy. Feel pretty warmed up.
Yep.
He's ready to go. He's ready to do some deadlifts. Now, a lot of people are scared of deadlifts. They're scared of squats. They're scared of these big lifts that can, rightfully so, be a little intimidating. Especially if you are running tight, you're not very mobile, because then all of a sudden you're trying to compensate by using other muscles, or even the muscles aren't strong enough to help support the joints, or not mobile enough, and all of a sudden you're going to pull something and have an injury. And again, we're really trying to work on injury prevention, especially, I mean, no matter what age you are, you should have injury prevention, you should do any of this. But of course, as you get a little bit up there in age, you want to be even more careful. And so we're going to be doing some deadlifts. Deadlifts are an amazing exercise.
So when I see people do deadlifts, I think to myself, man, that's gonna mess up your lower back. So why even do them? I mean, it's supposed to be a leg thing, no?
Well, it's kind of a combination of a push and a pull. It's a push mechanism for about half the exercise, and then it turns into more of a pulling exercise, and the rest of the half. But that is the case. You know, squats, lower back, knee problems. Oh, I can't do them. Deadlifts on my lower back, and you know, it's going to be bad for you. The bad thing about thinking like that is that if you don't do exercise like this, if you don't strengthen these weaker muscle groups or weaker points in your body, it's just going to get worse, and then you will never be able to do it. Or you just want to make sure you do it right, you take it light, you take it slow, you really understand the form, you're not in a rush, you never ego lift, and again, concentrating on proper mobility and warm up before ever kind of going into an exercise like this to make sure you can get the proper form. So that all being said, we're going to perform some deadlifts, and we kind of...
Let's talk about the form.
Exactly. So form immediately, you're going to step up to the bar. Feet are going to be hip width. So your hip width is, of course, here in your joints. Feet are there. You're going to walk up to the bar. You want the bar just mid-foot.
Mid-foot, what do you mean?
So right there. So about middle foot there. So once you walk up. And then when you get in the position, when you bow forward, so you're not squatting down like a normal squat, you're actually bowing forward. And then now you're going to bring the hips down by bending the knees. The shins are going to touch the bar right there. That's when you know you reach the proper position, but you're going to bring that chest down a bit more. So you don't have to overarch. You don't feel like you have to overarch the lower back. But you want to begin to push with the legs and the hips. And once you're, and then bring it all the way up. Once your shins become vertical to the floor, that's when you know to start to have the pulling mechanism. And then you extend the hips, as Duke just did, and then you bring it down. Now, some people can just drop the weight, or you can slowly let it down to get an eccentric contraction. But the most important thing about a deadlift is you're starting from a dead stop position. Go ahead and keep it. So you're starting from the dead stop. You're not hit like a squat. We're actually starting from the top position, reaching that stretch reflex, and then bringing it back up. This is from the dead stop position. You're really only concentrating on the concentric contraction, the way up. So you're gonna activate, pull, extend, and exactly. You don't have to necessarily overarch or overextend, but get a nice squeeze in the glutes, and then bring it down to the bottom. So once you get in the habit of this, of course, practice makes perfect. The more and more you do it, the easier it gets. And Duke is doing an amazing job here.
Give me some more weight.
So we just covered some mobility stuff, some dynamic warm-ups. We covered a couple exercises. That's good, not only for mobility and flexibility, but also some good activation in the muscles, a big compound lift. But now we're gonna go over some simple stretches as well, and we'll call it good there. So we're just doing kind of a stand and reach. Of course, get the hamstrings, the lower back, a little bit of the glutes. But you're gonna reach that position there, and then you're gonna hold for about 10-20 seconds, depending on how long you can actually hold the position. So you wanna feel probably about the discomfort level of 7 or 8, depending on your pain tolerance.
Feels good.
But it feels good, exactly. So stretching the muscle out is gonna actually feel good in the long run. So kind of course, this stuff was more lower body, and so that's why we're concentrating more on the hamstrings, because the hamstrings tend to tighten up very quickly. But yeah, you're gonna hold this for a bit. Do about 3 sets of about 10 to 20 second holds. Really simple, and then we'll move on to the next one. As we were saying before, the quads can actually lead, depending on the tightness in the quads, can lead into some discomfort in the knees, especially when you're either walking around, squatting, whatnot. So doing a stretch like this, very simple, just standing, you're reaching, grabbing back, and just kind of pulling back, and immediately you should feel it in the rectus femoris, but also the vastus lateralis, so that's medialis. That's really what makes up the quads. Maybe a little bit in the hip flexor, depending on if you actually pull back and get a bit of stretch in the hips as well. You can hold that again for 10-20 seconds. The one thing people make the mistake of doing stretches is they'll just walk in the gym and start yanking on their fucking limbs, and all of a sudden they're gonna pull something because things are cold. They're not really having a lot of blood flow in there as of yet, especially depending on if you've warmed up. So I mean, if you want to stretch before your exercise, that's totally fine. You can cold stretch, although you have to be very careful, just so that way you don't pull anything. Or take about 5 to 10 minutes on the treadmill to warm up before going through your stretch routine. So this is, of course, going to hit your lower back. It's going to hit a little bit of the glute, and but it mainly is going to be for the back, for the lower back. I mean, that's in the shoulders. So a couple key points you want to do is keep the shoulders flat, and you're going to cross this leg over. You're going to try to keep it as straight as you can, but again, it just takes some time, it takes some effort, it takes that consistency. You're supposed to look the opposite way, because that's going to help hold that upper body back and close to the floor. And yeah, it's actually a great stretch for that the lower back, and then we're going to switch sides.
There, I feel it.
Okay, good job. Here, I'll help you up there.
Thanks, boss.
Yeah. So that was just a very simple routine, just kind of going over the things you can do to help loosen that lower body up a bit. You know, next video we're going to probably concentrate a little bit more on the upper body, but for now, lower body is usually probably the most troubling area for a lot of people. So we just wanted to,
yeah, especially people in their 60s or past.
Well, thanks DIY Duke for joining us.
You're welcome.
And letting me torture you for a bit and making you go through all these different movements. But and we will cover myofascial release in the next episode as well. So,
say what?
You know, it's fine.
You say it so fast.
I do. Yeah. I'm a jabbermouth. Remember the Micro Machine guy? Pretty much who I'm trying to be. That's like my hero. But until next time, what do we tell him? Stiff up.
Yeah, stiff up.